Is Donald Trump racist? Considering the fact that Donald Trump is the current and 45th President of the United States, this is actually a very important and relevant question to ask. We must find out if the current President of the United States is a racist, and if it will accurately represent all the groups of America, as a president is intended to do. However, this question is kind of complicated to answer. Of course, his opponents will say that he is racist. Even some of his supporters as well will agree with that. In fact, some people actually voted for him based on his racial beliefs, whether they like to admit it or not. So, is Donald Trump a racist? First, let's ask the man himself. In 2015, the man claimed that he was the least racist person on earth himself. However, his track record doesn't show that claim. Trump has had a history of racial incidents and comments, even before running for the presidency. In 1973, there was a discrimination complaint filed against Trump, stating that he was actively keeping out minorities from his apartments. 4 different Trump employees came forward saying that race was an important factor in screening for new applicants. Allegedly, even Trump's father had told him not to rent to blacks, and some employees were told not to allow in blacks who came to apply for apartments. Although the Trump organization eventually withdrew, they did file a countersuit before that. The law did triumph in that case, and allowed more minorities to be allowed into the apartments, but more incidents were to come. Trump, in an interview that he gave in 1989, said that blacks have greater advantages than whites in the job field because of affirmative action and such. However, it was still true that whites had a greater advantage. This demonstrated his racial ignorance. Trump also discriminated against black employees in other places that he owned. For example, in his casinos, one black employee said that all the blacks were cleared from the floor before Trump and his daughter Ivanka Trump came to the floor. Trump called blacks lazy and apparently said that the only kinds of people that he wanted to count his money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. This was apparently a reference to Jewish bankers. He said that it was not the fault of black money handlers that they were lazy, since laziness is a trait found in blacks, according to him. He would at first deny saying such things, but a few years later say that it was probably true. In 2011, he began supporting the birther claim. I said that President Barack Obama was not a U.S. citizen. He also asked for proof that he was in the form of his birth certificate. Now, we haven't even got to his presidential campaign. Let's talk about that as well. Trump began his campaign with the statement that Mexican immigrants were rapists and bringing crime and drugs to the U.S. He called for a ban on all Muslims entering the U.S., and he stated that a lot of the Muslims in the world hated the United States. When faced with Judge Gonzalo Carrillo, who was in charge of a case against the Trump University, he said that he should withdraw since he was a Mexican. However, Carrillo had been born in Indiana. Even one of Trump's biggest supporters, Paul Ryan, called him the textbook definition of racism. Trump was slow to condemn white supremacists who declared their support of him, and also used some anti-Semitic imagery in a tweet of his that showed Hillary Clinton in front of a money and the Star of David. He called Senator Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas in reference to her Cherokee ancestors and said to black voters, "You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the do you have to lose?" Now, let us decide if Trump is a racist. From his past record, it is pretty easy to decide that he is. Perhaps one of the incidents mentioned above, or even a couple of them, wouldn't necessarily translate to racism, but a pattern that has been repeated for over 40 years clearly shows a trend of marked racism. And many people believe that this might be why so many white Americans turned out to vote for Trump on Election Day. Their racial tensions and fears were exactly what Trump described for them, and they were willing to choose such a candidate. Even after being elected as president, Trump has shown not to let go of his racist past, or at least try to distance himself from it. He nominated Jeff Sessions as the new U.S. Attorney General, a man with a history of racism himself. Also, he named Steve Bannon as the chief strategist and senior counselor, even though he is known to be a racist. Although his Muslim ban was overturned, and his famous planned wall along the border with Mexico is nowhere to be seen, and seems futile to build, we will have to wait and see if Trump tones down his voice throughout the next 4 years. As the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump will have to act in the interest of all Americans, not just the groups that supported him. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe for more great content.